In the United States at the weekend, you may have noticed it was Trump's 79th birthday. Celebrated, it was a coincidence, but celebrated the only way that you know how, a full-scale military parade in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, there were lots of anti-Trump No King protests across the country. Our US politics expert, Danielle McLaughlin, is with us from New York this morning. Danielle, good morning.
Morena, how are you doing, Ryan?
Really good, thank you. Let's start with the parade. Bit of a bizarre thing to witness, really, and I have to say, nowhere near as precise in terms of the goose-stepping or intense as what you'd see out of Russia or Pyongyang.
No, that's because they don't, generally speaking, American troops don't have practice doing this type of thing, right? So the criticism has been that this feels like the kind of thing that an autocratic state like China or Russia, as you point out, or North Korea would do, but those troops are far more versed in this kind of thing. And I have to just say that I'm sure we're going to get to the price of snails and fridges in the South Island, but this particular parade cost the US taxpayer between $25 and $45 million. So I'll be interested to see how that shapes up next to the snails and the fridges.
Well, even just next to, and we're looking at some of the images now, this is from DC at the weekend, even just the fact that there are some veterans support budgets being cut, and then at the same time you're spending all these millions of dollars on a parade. I mean, even veterans themselves have questioned that.
Yeah, you know, and it's historically been extremely challenging for veterans in the US and truthfully anywhere around the world to re-enter sort of civilian life. And I can speak for the American system where things like Medicaid for veterans, it's called TRICARE, housing for troops, people who have to return from combat and warfare, traditionally very much underfunded for some of the neediest population who have a ton of mental health issues, among other things, just trying to come back into the real world. So there's cuts in Medicare, there's cuts in support for veterans. And, you know, $16 million of this particular parade budget goes to just fixing the streets that the tanks chewed up.
Yesterday, 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota were shot along with their partners. Sadly, 2 of them have passed away. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so there's actually there's a manhunt still going on for a gentleman named Vance Bolter. He dressed as a police officer and entered without any challenges to the home of Melissa Hortman and her husband. He killed them just north of Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is the capital of the state of Minnesota. And then he went to another suburb nearby and shot John Hoffman and his wife. She threw herself on their daughter, Hope. They're all alive, particularly Hope, because of the actions of her mother. He has not been found as of airtime. The FBI has put out a $50,000 reward on his head. He is considered armed and dangerous, and the manhunt has expanded from Minnesota to the state of South Dakota as well.
Goodness me, a lot going on, and we haven't even spoken about Los Angeles yet, Danielle, but the protests continue there and there's still back and forth, along with those agitators who, you know, the so-called professional protesters who seem to be coming in and sparking things up.
No, you're right. We have seen the organization's called 50-51, which is 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. This is an anti-Trump, no King series of protests. They've been happening in the lead up, but this weekend, because of the parade in DC, was the big day. We've had more than 2,000 protests, particularly in California. We're in San Francisco, in the center of San Francisco. They estimate 100,000 people showed up. And you're right, Brian, always there is a mix of agitators and folks who are exercising their free speech. California is particularly hit up because, of course, the president put the California National Guard into play in the streets of California, which is by law actually in peacetime the governor's remit. And the governor went to court over the weekend, and the National Guard has come back under the power of Governor Gavin Newsom, as is required under law during quote-unquote peacetime.